In a moment, we're going to talk about new manufacturing. Can we get there?
This is Drive.
891 Drive with Ian Henschke. Get a snapshot of the day's news.
Now, you would have been perhaps following the news today that the last fridge made in Australia came off the production line in Orange. It was made by the Electrolux company. Of course, here in South Australia, we had plenty of companies making white goods right up through the 50s and 60s and even into the 70s. Now we're witnessing the death of what you have to say is old manufacturing, but we're looking forward to a new era. And companies are now looking towards robots to improve their abilities. And we're joined in the studio now by the director of HMPS, Mark Emmett, and also Kaimon Lycos. Firstly, to you, Kaimon, you're asking for people to contact you with companies that are up to date with state-of-the-art technology for an awards program. Just tell us a bit about it.
Absolutely. So last year we ran what was known as the Impact Awards, and people can check out theimpactawards.com.au if they want to see more information on the website. But we're looking for what are known as the gazelles of the South Australian economy. Yes, manufacturing is suffering now, but there are many, many smart manufacturing companies out there who are globally competitive, who are taking on the world and winning here in South Australia, and they represent the future of South Australia, and those are the kinds of companies that we're looking at.
And these companies tend to use robotic systems because it's cheaper than labour, is that right?
Yeah, robotic and automated systems.
Okay, and that brings us to our guest, Mark Emmett. Now, Mark, you're one of the finalists in these, you'd have to say, Gazelle Awards, so you're agile and competitive. And tell us how you use robots in your manufacturing.
Okay, so Ian, we're a business that actually design and integrate robots into other people's factories. So we go into a business and look at how they could be more efficient with automation and robotics, and then bring that in. And that tends to make them more agile and the ability to keep manufacturing in Australia rather than sending manufacturing offshore. There's a lot of thought that robots destroy jobs, but they actually create jobs by keeping work in Australia rather than offshore.
And do we build the robotic systems here in Adelaide, or do you have to import those?
No, so we've got 50 people in Adelaide, and we design and build the systems here in Adelaide and then integrate them around Australia, and also we export. So we've got throughout Southeast Asia, South Africa. So we're building them here, installing them in throughout the country and overseas.
I was fortunate enough to go down and have a look at the new technology park down at Tonsley, and I saw there's a lot of work with the design students working on robotic systems. Where do you get your employees from that work with the robot side of the business?
Well, actually, a lot of them recently have come out of automotive feeder plants. So businesses that were making things for Holden or Toyota, and then they're sort of, as they're coming back, the engineers are looking for other opportunities and they're moving into robotics. And also we work with the University of South Australia and Adelaide Uni with their mechatronics students to try to bring them through our business.
And how hard is it to actually compete? Because we hear that other countries can use robots as well. I mean, if you've got cheap labour and you've got robots, and we've got expensive labour and robots, so you're still behind the eight ball, aren't you?
Well, no. Once you sort of remove the work that is the really low cost labour,
right,
then we've got highly skilled people with robotic systems, and that makes us competitive no matter where that company is in the world.
Can you give us an example of where robots are being used in Adelaide at the moment that enables companies to compete globally?
Yeah, so there's a business in St Mary's that makes injection moulded plastics for the medical industry. That business can run 24/7 and can run lights out, no one there. So there's product, they put granules of plastic in and product comes out without anyone being there. And he's able to sell that product throughout Australia. He makes all the breathalyzer tips for the country, and they're now exporting those products through Southeast Asia.
Okay, so when the police say, pull over, I want to take your breath analysis, there's someone in Adelaide making that, and it's being made by robots.
They're blowing into a breathalyzer tip made in South Australia.
Is that the same company? I think they're actually exporting to China, Petri dishes and things like that.
Yes,
it's the same business. So efficient. I mean, so efficient that they're able to send over commodity items like that to China. It's incredible.
Okay, so Kaimon Lycos, you are saying that we have got a future in manufacturing in South Australia. It's just going to be different products.
It's going to be a lot different.
Right.
A lot different. I mean, it's tragic what's happening, for example, to the steel mill. But no doubt that the people who were working with the steam engine and, steam power way back in the day, they too were upset when they were replaced with new economies and with new technologies. The world is a vastly different place, and Adelaide needs to really get on board with globalisation and all the disruptive technologies that are occurring, because they're not threats. They are incredible opportunities, and they're opportunities for all of us. There are opportunities from universities and for world-beating entrepreneurs such as Mark.
Well, Mark Emmett, back to you. How did you get involved in this? How did you seize on the opportunity that Kaimon's talking about? Did you study this area of robotics or what?
No, I'm a salesman.
Okay.
And the business has been going for about 30 years, and the guy that started it, John Tonks, was a client of mine, and I could see that what he was doing had opportunities throughout Australia, not just in South Australia. And so I became involved, worked with the business for about 15 years, and then purchased the business myself and have grown it from there.
Oh, it's a bit like that what was the old ad about the shaver, wasn't it? I liked the company so much I bought it. So
exactly, yeah.
And so now that you've got the company and you're able to use the advantage of robotic systems, where do you see that going? I mean, you're talking about making items for medical production. What else can you do in South Australia that would provide jobs? Because the one you mentioned is a factory that's running day and night and there's no human in there. Where are the jobs then?
Well, they still have 30 employees that run the factory throughout the week,
right,
and make changes, and they have engineers that are improving and adding production lines all the time. So they've able to grow their business without growing the number of heads in the business, which means they will remain competitive. But many businesses in South Australia, food and beverage particularly, that rely on a lot of low-cost labour, they can automate part of their process and still remain competitive.
So could you, for example, see robots making cakes? I mean, I think about Mr. Villiers with his pies, for example. Is that the sort of thing where you would have a robot, or would you always need a human to decorate a cake or, make a frog cake or something like that? How does that all work? Yeah,
well, you get a lot of mix. There's a lot of robotics at Balfour's, and I think it's Perryman's are one of those that actually make a gingerbread man, and they use a robot to do the repetitive work of putting the icing on or something like that. So it's a mix of using robots and humans to get a good balance of quality and affordability.
And is that happening everywhere in the world, though? Because when you look at shoes and cars and all sorts of things that we saw as traditionally involved people, you'll now see, for example, the car in America, the Tesla. When you see any image of the factory there, it seems to be all robots and no people.
Robots are everywhere. The biggest consumer of robots in the world is China.
Is that
so
right?
The lowest labour cost countries are taking up robots faster than anyone else, because the repetitive tasks, they just can't get people to do that sort of work. And it's demeaning or repetitive work. People want to do more interesting things.
And don't forget, somebody has to design the robots, they have to program the robots, they have to create better robots, they have to integrate those systems. So the kind of jobs that we're talking about are high-value jobs. I mean, we enjoy a very prosperous environment here in South Australia. But the fact of the matter is, if we don't start generating more high-value employment opportunities, we're not going to be that prosperous. We need more people to be designing and creating and thinking things, and not doing so much what you'd call repetitive or low-value type occupation. So when you're talking about jobs, from my perspective, the future of the South Australian economy depends upon creating more high-value jobs. We have such a fantastic opportunity from South Australia to innovate and to take on the world, because we've got such a great lifestyle where we can attract and keep very talented people. We've got some fantastic universities right on our doorstep. We've got all the right ingredients, and I firmly believe, as do a lot of other South Australian business people, that we just have to step up to the challenge and take this on ourselves. Don't wait for government. Don't rely upon government. Government does what government does. Forward-thinking, world-beating people like Mark and other entrepreneurs who are taking on these challenges, they are the ones who will lead the new economy for us.
All right, and Kymon Lycos, just remind our listeners about the awards that you've got. So there's someone listening who's got a company that's doing state-of-the-art work. These are basically for the companies that are in that league.
Yes.
There's an annual award. Explain it again.
Absolutely. So if you nominate for the Impact Awards on the website, what you're able to enjoy is, as a winner, and we had 3 winners last year, where you'll get mentoring and access to exclusive networks from what we call our ambassadors. So people such as Dean Brown, Frank Seeley, Tom Phillips, John Bastian, Nick Bagarkis. There's about 20, so I won't go through all of them. But you will be able to access their networks and gain mentoring from them to be able to help you to get opportunities to grow your business even faster.
All right, and back to you, Mark Emmett from HMPS. How is your business growing, and how is it going in South Australia at the moment?
We're growing about 25 to 30% a year, and all of our work tends to come from the east coast of Australia and overseas. There's a few projects locally, but all we find, we've got to get up every morning, decide we're going to go to Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane.
Is that right? Yeah.
Every week I'm away. That's where the work is. We just have to say we've got a great thing we can do in South Australia, but the market is interstate or overseas, so we just need to get up, get over there, tell people what we can do, and they will buy what we can build locally.
All right, and Nick has called in with a question for both of you. We're talking to Kymon Lycos here, and also we're talking to Mark Emmett. Nick, your question to our guest this afternoon?
Look, on behalf of all of we dumb people, all we want is a boring, repetitive job that 40 hours a week, that we can earn some money. You guys are going to make a fortune with your robots, but what happens to all the normal people that just can't find a bloody normal job?
Well, I mean, it's a great question though, because I mean there are still, a robot can't, for example, weed a garden, can they? A robot can't paint a difficult chair or something like that. If you're painting furniture, I mean, are they always going to need painters? We're always going to need builders. We're going to need gardeners. Is that the answer?
Yeah, I mean, of course, as Mark pointed out, I mean, there's many areas of the economy within agriculture, retail. There's plenty of tourism. There's plenty of industries where people who, let's say, want an ordinary life and don't want to do too much. Of course, there's going to be jobs around for them, but those kinds of jobs, and I must be very clear about this, those kinds of jobs do not represent a prosperous future for South Australia because we have such high costs. We're a high-cost economy. Okay. It's as simple as that.
All right. Look, I thank you both for your time this afternoon. Thanks again. And there's a website, Kymon, if people want to go and nominate a company for these awards.
Yes, please. So if you jump on theimpactawards.com.au, you can either nominate your own company or you can nominate another company, and you'll be able to see the winners and the finalists. And also there's some great thought leadership pieces there from people like Joran Roos.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for your time. Gentlemen, it's just gone 4:20 here on Drive. Now, in a moment, we're going to check in with the Department of